Good morning, everyone. At least morning in my time zone in Arizona, and it's afternoon or evening in Ireland right now.
Yep, that's
It
right.
is indeed.
There we go, different time zones. So everyone, thank you for joining us. I see we've already got people in the chat. Ronnie's here. Thank you. Feel free, everyone, to put your comments and questions. If we have moved on to a different topic, don't worry about it. Just put your comment or question in there. We'll go back to it. We're good at pivoting here. But I have special guests today featuring Jason and Mandy Post, who are in Galway, Ireland?
Yes, Galway, yeah.
Galway. And if you noticed, if you enjoyed the pre-stream video out there, we tried to get some drone video for you so you can see what Ireland looks like. But I'm sure, we've all heard the reputation of Ireland as being a very beautiful place. So Jason and Mandy, why don't you briefly just let me know, to share about who you are and basically what you do, just very brief, because we're going to go into unpack that as we get later.
Yeah, well, we've been here for 21 years and doing everything from evangelism, church planting, leadership development, formal and informal theological education, ministry, WorldVenture leadership as well, writing, different things like that. So a little bit of everything.
Awesome. So let's go into your testimony. You became believers as children, but when did faith become your own?
Yeah, so grew up in church, going to church, and it was probably around age 15 that I discovered what it meant and what it was like to have a personal relationship with Jesus. Um, and it's just been a growing, sanctifying experience since then. I wouldn't say at that age I could probably explain the gospel completely and fully, but just over the years in, Bible study, prayer, going to church, and growing in my faith, came to understand and recognize the, gospel message and just have grown since then. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was converted young as well, but it probably wasn't until my first year of high school that I really kind of owned it for myself and said, I really want to, walk in this every day. I always say I had a drug problem growing up. My parents drugged me to church. So it wasn't until I was that first year of high school that I kind of said, no, this is the path I want to be on.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask a very fun question of you two, because you two make an adorable couple. So we've got to know, how did you both meet, and how did Jason pop the question?
Well, I'll tell the story. So we've actually known each other since we were 7 years old. So we grew up together in the same hometown, went to elementary school, middle school, high school, university, all together, and started dating our last year of high school and then through college, and got married right after we graduated. So how Jason popped the question, because we've known each other for so long, he had planned this series of
An elaborate ruse.
right. I was clueless. We had already talked about getting married, but I wasn't expecting him to propose when he did, I guess. So it was a surprise, which was lovely. And he had a different note for different locations and places to go visit. So the first note had a clue in it, and it said, "Where did we first meet?" So we drove over to the elementary school and where we first met. And then he gave me another note that led to another location where we, first started growing in our faith, and where we had our first date. So we went and had dinner, and then after that, it was I guess the final clue was where did we grow in our faith, and that was our church, the church we were attending through high school and university. And so when we got there, he said, "Okay, now I need you to gather up all the notes I've given you through the night and read the first word from each note." And so I opened them all up. We were at the, in the sanctuary. I opened them on a pew, and it started, "Will you marry me?" And then I turned around, and he was on his knee with the ring.
Oh, that's clever. That is probably the most unique marry me story that I've actually heard. Good.
Well, it accomplished the objective, so that was good.
So how did you both determine God was leading you to Ireland, and what was the process of that decision?
Yeah, a lot. That was a multi-year kind of a conversation. So in university, we knew that we wanted to go into ministry, and we knew that we wanted to go someplace where there was a need for solid Bible teaching churches. We grew up in the Bible Belt, and so we wanted to go somewhere else. And initially, we both felt a little pull to the Pacific Northwest, because at least at the time, it was the least church part of the U.S. And so that was kind of in the forefront of our minds. And then when I started seminary, I took a missions course with Mark Young, who's president of Denver Seminary now. And he became a mentor, but he really started to kind of open up our thinking and about the need outside of the U.S. for churches. And he served years ago. He and his wife, Priscilla, served with CB International, which is WorldVenture. And so he kind of clued us into WorldVenture. And so we traveled to Denver, visited the home office, and really just kind of fell in love with the ethos and the home staff. And it felt like it was a good fit. And so from that point, we started looking at different places that WorldVenture wanted to send church planters. And one of them was Ireland. And Ireland, based on what we were doing at the time in seminary and ministry, the demographic really kind of stood out to us and drew our attention. And we came over, met with Tim and Joan Cummings. Hi, Tim and Joan, if you're out there. Tim and Joan Cummings they had served in Austria for 25 years, and were in Galway trying to get a church planted for about a year before we got here.
Wow.
And so we came and met them and felt like, yeah, we could work here. And so then it was either the Pacific Northwest or Ireland. And at the end of the day, it was, you know what, there's a lot of people going to the Pacific Northwest. There's not many people going to Ireland. And that was kind of that's kind of what tipped it over. But that was about a 3-year process. Our church was involved. They were praying for us. They were talking with us. They were deeply involved in us trying to discern, what the Lord was leading us to do. So other friends and mentors were involved. So there's lots of people involved in this over a 3-year period.
And I'd say it was just you just take one step and see what happens. And then you take the next step and then see how God opens that door. And it just kept narrowing and narrowing and narrowing until it landed in Galway. So,
yeah.
Awesome. So, good question here. When looking at your bio, which everyone, the link to their ministry link or their ministry profile is in the chat, as well as in the QR code, if you want to check that out. And some of you have, so thank you for checking that out and learning about them. So you were in pharmaceuticals in career. Was it hard to give up? What made you decide to give up that career to go in missions?
She wasn't in that side of pharmaceuticals.
Oh, you weren't. Okay.
I was more in like customer service area, and we provided services for pharmaceutical companies.
Okay.
So
it
wasn't the well-paying side. Like a sales, but yeah, that would have been nice. But no, I think when I was in that industry and had that job, I needed a job when we first got married, and I saw it as a temporary situation. It was always going to be a temporary career until we went into ministry full time. So he was in seminary, and so I was bringing home the bacon.
So you are in the planning and making some good financial decisions to get to the point where you are today, which is awesome, and we love that you're there. And we're going to go unpack some more exciting things that they are doing. So tell me about, how has your mission changed since you arrived in 2003?
Yeah. Well, there was always three things that we saw ourselves involved in. There was evangelism, church planting, and then leadership development. And if you imagine a plane, those three things, you're kind of always doing some combination of those things. But at different points in the ministry, the fulcrum kind of shifts towards one end or the other. And so obviously when we first got here, it was all evangelism. We were trying to meet people. We're trying to share the gospel as often as we could in order to get a church established. There wasn't a whole lot of leadership development at that point that we could really be engaged in. So it was weighted down there. Today, it's weighted a little more towards the mentoring, the leadership development, the training, the church pastoring, trying to raise up leaders within the church. And we're still involved in evangelism, but again, the emphasis is probably further down, as compared to what it was when we first moved here.
Got it. So tell me, what challenges have you overcome as you serve in Ireland?
Well, the biggest challenge when we moved here was the way that the Irish viewed time and relationships was different than what it was in Dallas, where we grew up. So in Dallas, time governed relationships. So you were always on time. You're even early, and you had the point of your meeting. You got right to the point, so you could go to your next appointment. But here it was relationships that governed time, and so that was a shift for us. You knew that if you had a meeting scheduled, people were going to be late, and it was okay. They may show up 15, 20 minutes late. You're going to talk about, incidental things for 15, 20 minutes. Then you might get to the point of the meeting and you're going to be late for the next one. So that was a big cultural shift for us that it took time to overcome. Yeah.
Well, and another thing culturally is that it takes a long time for things to get done. Nothing's really convenient. There's no, so to give a practical example, there's no drive-through hardly anything. So, there's no drive-through culture where, time is of essence and you need to get as many things done in a day as possible. So you can drive through this, drive through that, and so no, it's go stand in a line for an hour and wait your turn. And, but first you have to drive to a location, you have to find a parking spot, you have to pay for the parking, you have to walk then to the location where you're going, and then you're waiting in the line. So that was a big shift as well, because things just take more time. And that's a practical example, but it's also relationally. Things just take a lot of time. One of our colleagues here says ministry or relationships move at the speed of trust. So it just takes time. And I'll give Kirk Post a shout out. That's a quote from him. But it's so true. And so you're going to be building relationships and building even, in ministry, it's just going to take time, because it's going to take time for people to trust you, to trust that you're here, that you have their best interest in mind, that you're going to stick with it and stay for the long haul. So culturally, I think that was another big adjustment. For me personally, one of the challenges, and I wouldn't say I've overcome it, but it's gotten easier with time, is just missing family back in the States. So really, really difficult. And I'd say at least for the first 10 to 12 years, I was praying and asking God, can we please go back? Can we please go back to the States? So just really, I wouldn't say homesick, because I wasn't missing necessarily Texas or the culture, but I was missing our families and missing being with our families and watching our nieces and nephews grow up, and, just things like that. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how long, just a question out of the blue, how long does mail from the US take to get there, in case someone wanted to send you some encouraging notes, especially if they're related to any holidays?
It varies these days.
Yeah.
It's really inconsistent, but it can be quick. Like one card or letter could get here in a week, but sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's a month. It's really, yeah, interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, Sarah says, "Hey guys, I'm excited to hear your updates on the family ministry." She comes from us from Facebook, and Janie she says she's here. She's saying hi from Facebook. Thank you everyone for joining us. And as a reminder, don't forget you can ask us questions, and we'll get to your questions. So let's talk about. We have many church planters in our organization. And as we just talked about with Ireland, how things take time, relationships take time, growth even takes a while, such as even in Austria, where Nathan and Bethany Johnson recently enjoyed a surge in attendance. So tell us about your church plant, Galway City Church. And I'll put the link in the comments, everyone. So tell me about that church plant.
Yeah. Well, we started in Tim and Joan's sitting room or living room, and really small with two university students and then a few other people, and we that was in 2003, 2004, and then about 2005, we outgrew that, and we moved to a hotel that was just across the road to their little conference room. And then for the next 4 years, we kind of moved from the small conference room to the bigger conference room to then like the ballroom, the function room, as it just kind of grew. And certainly at that point in Ireland, things were, and it wasn't just our church, the evangelical church at large was growing through immigration. And so we had, we were maybe 10%, if that, Irish, 5 to 10%
Yeah.
Irish. And we had other people from all over the world coming. And then 2009, the local primary school, they built a new school building, and we had a really good relationship with them. Our daughter, that's where she attended. And so then we were able to start meeting in the school. And so the first Sunday the school was open in 2009, we were there with, about, I don't know, 50 people, 60 people, something like that.
Yeah.
And we've been there ever since. And so that was kind of the road we took, and Mandy can tell you how it's changed and what it's like now.
Yeah, so the beginning growth in the church began with immigration. So it was very multinational, beautiful. It still is. Our church is still very international and beautiful. And that's how even evangelical churches were growing and have seen growth, is just Christians actually moving to Ireland. So, but being here now 21 years, we've been able to see nationals coming to Christ and nationals coming to the church. And so it's been a shift in that sense over time. And just a real blessing to see the fruit of that, and just encouraging, everyone to reach out to their neighbors, their coworkers, and seeing nationals come to Christ as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing over the years to see people come and go,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe one day in the new heavens and the new earth, we'll be able to see like a board and see where everybody went, where they came from, where they went. But it's just been, the people that have come and gone, like I see Edward Riggs is on, he did our safety statement for us when he and his family were here. That was great. We'll be using it for the next 10 years. It's great just to see people come and go, and the Stonebriar team, they come every year, and that's been a blessing. So it's great. It's just been nice to see people come and go, and you wish people would stay, but you trust that God is doing what He's doing, right? That He's providentially moving people through in order to hopefully grow and then be sent somewhere else. So we trust Him.
We say we send, because Galway is a very transient city. And so, it's a university town. There's a major hospital here on the west coast of Ireland in Galway. So we see people coming and going a lot. And but it's beautiful and it's great. And we say we're sending we're sending workers out, globally and to other parts of the world, which is great. It's like an extension of our Galway City Baptist Church family heading out. So, but yeah, and it was neat when Tim and Joan Cummings retired in 2013 and headed back to the States. We made a quilt for them, and each block represented a different country. And I think there were like over 40 countries represented that had been, part of the church while they had been working here with us. So yeah, it's beautiful. It really is.
So what kind, we know the Irish are attending, but what other countries have you noticed they're attending? We've spoken about it on our social media, but share with us, what you've seen in attendance.
Okay, so just to name, I'll see if I can go around the world. So
I know I popped the question on you, didn't I?
I should be able to rattle it off. So
that's all right. It's on the spot. It happens sometimes. No worries.
We've had people from the States. So there's a lot of biotech companies here in Galway. And a lot of times people from that work with those American companies will come and work here in Galway for a couple of years, which is great. We love it. And then we've had from the UK, so from England and Northern Ireland. And then moving to Europe, we've had Spanish and Polish, Romanian, French, Portuguese, and then Brazilian and Mexican, Chilean, and then Nigerian, Kenyan, Togo, Zimbabwe, South Africa,
Romania,
Ghana, and
Croatia,
then India and Pakistan, and I'm trying to think, Netherlands, okay, Malaysia, China, Singapore. Korea, South Korea, and Australia, Philippines, New Zealand. So pretty much the gamut, every continent anyway.
Oh my goodness. So that must make for an interesting spiritual landscape. Can you explain what the spiritual landscape of Ireland generally is?
Oh, the spiritual landscape is really interesting. Galway, when we moved here, it was a lot different. So 21 years ago, it was the older population was really committed Roman Catholic. The younger population wasn't. They were either I don't want to say recovering Catholics. It's not exactly what I mean, but they were off living their life before they started having kids, and once they had kids, then they might come back into the Catholic Church. But they weren't really practicing their Catholicism. There's a lot of New Agey kinds of things in Galway. Today is really different. The percentage of people that are committed Catholic is, really small. Today the landscape is more secular than anything else. Like, I don't have conversations about the differences between what we believe and what Catholic would believe. We have conversations about, is there a God and what kind of God is he? So it's a secularism that is prevailing at the moment here. Mm-hmm. And it's happened really quickly. So the secularization of the U.S., let's say, has been taking place maybe since the 60s, and it's been progressing since then. Ireland has been in the last 20 years. So it's really compressed. But Ireland's, their desire is to be on the cutting edge of progressivism in Europe. And they're succeeding, so today the spiritual climate is largely secular. People don't have any interest in spiritual things. Yeah,
that must make it difficult. But go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Chris also said that Ukraine. We do have some Ukrainians as well, and we've had Czech Republic, Slovakian a lot anyway.
Yeah, fist bump to Chris. He works with us. His family. So
yeah.
And welcome, Edward, Keith, Amy, and James, and Ronnie again. Apparently, Amy's wanting to know how you guys look so young, and she's wondering if it's the Irish rain. I don't know if there's some kind of secret fountain of youth over there, but Anyway, I'm not
Well,
sure that's an official question, but if you want to answer it.
well,
We have a filter on the screen now.
the
Yeah,
rain,
there we go, the filter.
the rain keeps the skin soft and supple. So
Right. No, we do have the spit in your face rain is what I call it, which is pretty regular, but it's like you get a facial just every time you walk out the door.
So thank you everyone for joining us. And yes, if you guys want to check out Chris Copeland, we've published some articles about him on our blog at worldventure.com/blogs. So tell me, you had a newsletter some time ago, and you talked about how you had trouble getting volunteers to help grow the church. And this is really a common problem. I'm sure everyone here could probably agree. It is hard to find volunteers to lead necessary ministries that a church needs to actually grow and reach their community. So that was some time ago. So tell me, how has that been going? And what advice would you give to church leaders if they encounter this today?
Mandy, you go first.
Okay. So I would say what I have learned to do, I would say it's been difficult, but I've learned to do this, to leave the void. If there's something that someone recommends or says, oh, we should do this, we need this, and you say, good, let's, here, great, that'd be great, do it. But if there's a void, leave it and let the pain kind of be felt for a little while. So that way, someone who maybe does have a passion or maybe does feel a calling towards it can feel the conviction or just the weight of it, and hopefully then step up. Or, at least if they come and mention it to you, like, we should do this, then you kind of then know someone who is there interested, and then you can kind of, tag them in your mind that, okay, maybe praying for that person, that they saw a need. Now let's pray that maybe they will fill the need themselves. But
yeah, I think what I've started doing over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or so is this is what I want someone to do, and this is the potential that I see in them. But they don't feel like they can do it. They feel incompetent, not able to pull it off, even though I know that they're able to do it. So what I'll do is I'll challenge them here to do this, and then I'll make them do it. Like, I'll push them to do it. I'll say, yes, you can do this. And when they do it and they feel and they see, you know what, I can do it. Well, then I can go, okay, now I want you to do this, right? So I take the bar, and my first ask is one rung less than what I want. And once they see they can do it, then it's like, now I've got more credibility. You were right, I could do that. Now I want you to do this. So it's just, I say it's like, it's making people do stuff, but it's not. It's making them do one less and then pushing them to do what I really want them to do. But people don't want to stick their head up. Certainly in leadership, that's a cultural thing. They don't want to stick their head up because traditionally it gets chopped off. They don't want that, and they don't feel competent and able to do, and they don't want to look like a failure in front of people. Yeah. So if I can give them something that I know they can do, and then push them to that, then they get the experience of actually, hey, yeah, I was able to do that. Yeah. And it's a confidence booster. Yeah. But you just keep asking them, and you have to make them.
Yeah, my team of volunteers, I don't know if they're watching today, but my team of volunteers at my church would call that nudging. They're on to me, apparently. But yeah, the nudge, I'm familiar with that. But that void, that is a hard thing to do, is to wait and let it go and wait for God to fill it. That's really hard.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, especially when you could just easily step into that.
And do everything, right? Just fill it, do it until you're stretched thin and burned out.
Exactly. And especially in cross-cultural, work, you want to show how it can be done, but not actually do, like, take it on, I guess. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier to do it yourself.
It is.
Mhm.
I mean, there's things that I could do. There's things I can do in my sleep, but that's not helping anybody.
No.
It's actually detrimental to what we want to see in the long
To
term.
growth. Yeah.
So it's a bigger ask for me to try to take someone along with me and show them how to do it, and then give them. But I mean, yeah, it's just what you have to do, because none of us are going to be here forever, and unless we always said we want a 200-year church, we don't want a 20-year church. And so if we want I'm not going to be here. We're not going to be here for 200 years. So if we want a 200-year church, then somebody is going to have to come behind us and do these things, right? So you're not really helping yourself in the long run if you fall into the trap of just doing everything because it's easy.
Yeah. I have a missionary friend from another org who would always be thinking, what would happen if I wasn't in the field anymore? What would happen to this ministry? So she had to be thinking at the time I met her, going forward, this is going to look like, and give more of the nationals more of their responsibilities.
Yep.
So good stuff. So how has Galway City Church made an impact in the community? So tell us a couple stories.
Well, Jason already shared that we meet in primary school. And so we have a really good relationship with the staff, and it's a national school. All the national schools here are part of the parish. So it's Catholic in ethos. But we have a really good relationship with the parish priest, and so that goes a long way. But there's just been opportunities for us to volunteer and work with the school, and it helped that all of our children attended the school as well, and we were both at different times on the Parents Association, the PTA. All that to say, that's one way we've been able to help and support the community, is just so even when the school was meeting in like temporary buildings before the actual building was built, and our church helped move all of their equipment and tables and chairs and desks and all that from the temporary facility into the new building whenever they were making that big move. And they still talk about it to this day, like the staff still talk about it to this day. So that's one way. And then even just the summer recently, our church, the people in the church are trying to find more ways and avenues into the community and helping the community. So an opportunity came up this summer. Every August, the running club in Galway, the Galway City Harriers, host its own race within the city. But they don't shut the streets down. So they actually need about 300 volunteers to come in and steward the race and mark off the roads for them while the runners are going through. And so we had 20 or 30 people from our church volunteer and help steward and help get people registered for the race and things like that. And it was such a great thing, just a great connection connecting point with the community, with this race, the running club. And it was all because we had a member in our church or a couple members who are active in that running club, and saw the need, presented the need to the church. We met the need. The coordinators came back to us, and we're just so grateful and so thankful, because we stepped up like immediately, right when they asked for help. Like we all jumped on it, and so that was really, really a sweet thing for us to get to do this summer. So we're hoping for more opportunities like that to help with either other charities in the area or functions and things like that too. So.
Awesome. So how has, tell us about when Galway decided to start a church plant in another part of Ireland. You guys were really excited about that, I remember in your newsletter. So how has that church made an impact in that community?
Yeah, well, we'd always thought when we get to a certain number of people coming, that we want to start looking around for kind of the next place. And so we started to notice that there was a concentration of, 20 people that were coming from a community just outside the far east edge of Galway, in a little village that kind of has its own identity. And so we started noticing that, and we started praying, okay, maybe that's the next place. And then we had a couple of people through WorldVenture that wanted to come and do church planting. And so we said, okay, we kind of had two spots that we were thinking through, but we were kind of leaning this one way. And so they came in, and Will and Sarah Myron, and they arrived the day that everything shut down in 2020 with COVID.
Yeah.
That's the day they landed. So here we have church planters coming in. Relationships are critical, and you can't meet anybody.
Yeah. By the way.
So they started the process. We started the process of making that, talking about that more. That, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Be praying for this. They started as best they could, getting a small group, a core group together. And then at some stage, that core group kind of became a focus group, like this is actually what we're going to do. So get ready. And then they started having services last October. That's when they kind of launched out on their own. And so we had 4 elders at the time. And so we sent 2 of those elders and their families, and then about, 10 other people to start this church. And so it was a big sacrifice for us as a sending church. And we kept praying that the mother wouldn't die in childbirth, right? And that was our prayer. And so thankfully, they're doing well. They're plugging along as you do when you plant a church in Ireland. And God's been bringing new people in to ours as well. So it seems like it's been a positive thing.
And it's really exciting. This summer, they were able to have we had a gospel choir come over. They toured around all of Ireland, but the Myrons actually have a connection to the church that sent the choir, and they'd been before. We had worked with them before the Myrons even arrived here and moved to Ireland. And that was in 2019, but they came back, and there was an opportunity. So where the new church is starting, the village was combining 2 primary schools, because one was an all-boys school and one was an all-girls school, and the government is pushing all the schools to be mixed, to be co-ed. So they needed to amalgamate those 2 schools, and there was going to be a special assembly at the end of the school year in June to celebrate the combining of the 2 schools. And so the choir performed at the assembly. So Will got to, stand up, and their children attend the schools, but he got to make a presentation and just introduce the choir, and they loved it. Like, the community just thought it was amazing. And it was super neat, really fun, and just a great way to bring joy, and the joy of the gospel, like the gospel would have been presented, and just really, really neat, and just an open door there, and visibility as well for their church. So that was really good. And they're currently meeting in a hotel, kind of how we started it as well. And I know there was a good story Will shared about the receptionist there, who is just curious and really intrigued by, what goes on, And so they've had some really good conversations with her, and she's actually even talked about it with a friend. And so that's just how things move, and you just let the Spirit work, and then go with the Spirit as he does work. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So oftentimes, as we just talked about, global workers find creative ways to reach people for the gospel, like Rob and Lisa Atkins that we posted recently about Bolivia, who have conversational English gatherings, and where she utilizes her cooking and her baking skills. And by the way, we also have a video on the Post ministry profile that we made some years ago that apparently people are still enjoying, on how to make a favorite Texas recipe. So you might want to check that out. But any case, you mentioned using friendship evangelism to reach people in Ireland. Can you define what friendship evangelism is and how this is making a positive impact in your area?
Yeah, I mean, we think of friendship evangelism as establishing relationships of trust with people around us in order to God willing, spur gospel conversations. And so we think about it just really as being intentional, that everywhere we go, we're open to the possibility that God might want to develop a relationship that would lead to sharing the gospel. So, we want to get to know people. We want to throw out kind of spiritual questions, like just to see if there's any bites. We want to sustain those relationships over time, because we know that it takes a long time for an Irish person in particular to develop enough trust to talk about certain things at a certain level. And so we want to have sustained relationships with people so that, life happens to everybody. Eventually life gets you. And we want them to have someone that they know that, I should go talk to Jason or Mandy, because, they're spiritual, or they know this, or whatever. And so we want to be those people that they reach out to. So it's just been, for us, it's been about finding a third space, not the home. The home is private, not work. You got to be careful at work, but a third space where people let their hair down. So a club, or maybe a pub, or a sporting team, or something like that. And so for me, it's been golf. I play golf. I'm the chaplain at the golf course. Everybody knows what I do, and I play with different people, and to try to have spiritual conversations with them. And again, my goal is always to have another conversation at a later date, right? So I want to sustain those relationships. But I mean, it could be, we've met people at cafes, the workers at cafes, and then you go to the same cafe over and over and over again because you want to have conversations. So friendship evangelism is about being intentional in developing relationships. And, sometimes people say, well, isn't that kind of a bait and switch? And it's not, because friendship in itself is good. Like, it's good in itself for us to be friendly and to be friends with non-believers. But we want to hopefully spur some kind of spiritual interest that we can turn into a gospel conversation. So that's what it means for us, just finding that space that we can get to know people and then try to have as many conversations as we can. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well, yeah, I would just say, making time available to meet with people and just get to know them and be there, and have fun with them. And I have friends that I do sea swimming with, or, meet up and do that, or go for a run, or coffee or whatever. I think another thing, just like we were involved in our children's school, being a part of the Parents Association and just having input there and impact there, serving, in that way as well. And he said, not the home because it's private, but we do use our home though for hospitality and inviting people in. And one of the things we were doing really regularly up until the pandemic were 3D nights, or DVD nights we used to call them, where we would open our home to university students and they could invite friends, and we would serve dinner. So that was one D. The second D was watch a DVD, which don't exist anymore. So now you'd have to take digital or streaming or something, and the third D stood for discussion. So then we would talk about it afterwards and just try to, use that. And like our colleagues, the Copelands use D&D to meet with, their sons' friends and things like that. So it's just being available, and Thanksgiving is another great opportunity. You can even invite people in your home, and they can taste all the weird Thanksgiving, foods. Sweet potatoes with marshmallows is by far the oddest thing, So, so it's opportunities like that to rubbing shoulders with people and just doing life with them. So as Jason said, if a hard time comes, they feel comfortable enough to come to us with that. So
Yeah. And again, you never know what would happen if you just went and said hi to someone. You never know what could happen, right? God could use that, even that step of faith to just go to someone maybe in the cafe and just say, hey, I'm Jason. What's your name? How's it going? You don't know what God could do. And so friendship evangelism, I think, is about being brave enough to take that step and just see where it goes, right? Because everybody has things everybody has things that mean something to them. They have values, they have a worldview. And so we want to try to ask questions if we know the person, to try to get through to that core level where we can have a good conversation about the gospel.
That's awesome. So Janie says it's so exciting to hear such great news from y'all. I caught that y'all. I'm in Texas. May God continue to bless and be with you in your ministry. Thank you, Janie.
Thanks, Janie.
Welcome everyone else who's joined us. So this question is for Mandy. So I am a fan, as you both well know, of any kind of online ministry where you're trying to be innovative, and it may not seem like it's innovative, but it really is. You write for a monthly publication called Thrive. And I'll put the link to the latest devotional in the chat so you guys can look at it later if you want. But what is Thrive, and why did you choose to write for them? Because that's a monthly commitment that you have to plan ahead for.
Yeah, so Thrive is a ministry specifically for global working women. So women from the U.S. mostly. So they have in years past and still do provide retreats worldwide. They'll do it 2 times of the year globally, and then 1 time a year in Colorado for those who are traveling back to the States. But they provide a retreat that is just a time of renewal and refreshing and ministry to the global working women. And so I had attended one of these conferences or retreats with another WorldVenture worker back in 2017 or 2018, and they said that they were looking for writers back then, and I had always been interested in writing and enjoyed writing, and I'm a big journaler, and so I thrive in that. I thrive. So
You couldn't resist that one.
Yeah, so it's something I enjoy, and so when the opportunity came up, they were looking for more people. I just applied, and they were kind of changing a format for their publications, and it's a daily devotional. So from Monday to Friday, daily quick devotionals are sent to whoever subscribes to them, and then I'm just one of those writers on the team. So there's a team of I think about 30 of us that write these devotionals, and for me it is an opportunity just to use my gift in writing, I guess. I don't write. And what I've found though through the process, and since I've been doing this, I guess I started in 2019, or the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and I found that it is so therapeutic for me to be able to write about experiences we've had living abroad and ministering abroad, and how that hopefully can help and encourage people who are either just starting out or who've been in it for the long haul and just need encouragement. And it really sharpens my theology and my Bible study, and it's just really good for me in that sense. So it's a challenge in that way to be representing Christ well through the writing as well. But yeah, it's just something I've enjoyed, and I'm going to keep doing it until, I guess I run out of things to say.
Yeah, you do a great job on it. We've shared a couple from Thrive over onto our site. So if you want to check it out, I put the link in the chat if you want to check out the devotionals and sign up for them. But devotionals in a world of bad news, this is the kind of stuff that you're shedding light into a dark world. So good job on that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about we're running close to time. So if any of you have questions, you'll need to put it in now. Otherwise, the questions will be delayed in answering. So what is your personal support percentage right now? What are you
95.
What?
95.
95.
You said 5. I'm like 5.
we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
95% good. And how much, you just started the Galway project link, which we've also put in the chat. You started the Galway project not that long ago, and what you're trying to do is raise enough to get your own building, right? Can you talk a little bit about that, and tell us also about where you're at with funding with that?
Yeah, so
I'll do the second part first. We have virtually no funding at the moment, but largely because we don't really have a target yet. But now go ahead.
Yeah, so I know it's good to have something tangible to be able to show people when you're raising funds, and so we just haven't gotten there yet. Early this year, I met with a group of us from our church, from Galway City Church, and we just started the ball rolling. And we started a prayer group that meets twice a month, and we're praying through these things. But the big dreams we have would be to have our own space. And what we'd really love to see is a community center that we could bring to Galway, that could be used and rented out. I don't know, for theater clubs or small groups that need spaces to meet. We'd be open to, businesses could use it for conferences and things like that. So just something that would be available in a space that would be friendly and inviting and beautiful. And there's lots of even festivals that we have in Galway. And so it could even be a venue for some of those things. So yeah, just a new space that would be open to the community, but also a place for where our church meets on a Sunday and throughout the week, that we could use the space too. And whether or not it has a little cafe, that could be open throughout the week. Just lots of ideas out there. We're open, but we know this is going to be a long process because things happen slowly here. So we're just in the beginning phases, but we're praying, and asking God to lead us in that. And we also, the church is at a place where we're wanting to bring in our own pastor. And so to take Jason's place, we would hopefully stick around and still, help in the church. Well, we will help in the church. But we would love to see the church hire a pastor. So there's a housing crisis here. I know it's difficult in a lot of places, but the other option would be is if we could purchase a house for a future pastor. And so we're weighing those options, and we're meeting with hopefully people that will be able to advise us well in that. So those are the two different big dreams we kind of have. But yes, the community center is something.
There isn't a space
No.
like that. And we've seen it modeled over in Dublin.
Yeah.
Something that we think is really positive for the community, and then also for the church. So I mean, that's a big dream.
Yeah. So, and even things like art exhibits and performances, and so it'd be really, really exciting if we could get that soon.
So if any of you out there have God has been generous with you, and if you want to give a one-time donation, the link is on their ministry profile, and the link is also in the chat to give a donation. But go ahead, continue, Mandy.
No, I was just going to say, that's great.
Oh.
Yes. That's the big dream. We would love to see it and love to see that happen. And we're just praying. And we know it's just going to be a God given thing, a huge answer to prayer, because only God can see this happen.
Awesome. So how can people pray for you personally and professionally?
Yeah, so I'd say personally, we always love when people pray for our family. We have 4 kids. We didn't mention that before. So they range in age from 20 down to 14, 20, 17, 15, and 14.
So that picture is
13,
that picture is not current. Okay. Kids do not
we need a new photo from you. It sounds
Put a
like.
photo on the website. Yeah. So I said 14, but down to 13. So they all turn their even numbers before the end of the year. But anyway, so we always appreciate prayer for our family. And as the kids get older, it's for me personally, it's challenging learning how to parent teenagers and young adults, and it's just a shift in the way you parent. And so yeah, I could always use prayer for that. So
yeah, we say we have 4 teenagers, our heads are barely above water. So pray for us, pray for our kids, pray for us. We want our kids to love Jesus, and we want them to be influencers. And so we just pray for them, and pray that we can be the parents we need to be.
Yeah.
I think professionally, we're I'm always trying to train up future elders, future preachers in the church. And so we just need, we need more men that are willing and desiring to learn and to fill those voids. And thankfully God's, we've got several men that are, they got potential. And so just pray that God would use them and would do what he wants to do in them. And just the future.
Yeah.
We supervise families in Europe and the Middle East and North Africa with some other couples, WorldVenture. And, we really love doing that just to kind of mentor and support and try to help, different global worker families. So, pray for that as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. And thank you, Ronnie, for praying for us. And Lisa, thank you. She was watching the WorldVenture website. She says on Facebook, it's so good to see you. I love hearing your story from the beginning and hear your heart, your journey, and your goals.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, Lisa. Good to hear from you.
I know.
So any other prayer requests?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, just, future steps were, like I said, when we were figuring out coming to Ireland, it's just one step, and God opens the door and you just take the next step, and you just are trying to be faithful, and your faith is strengthening through that process, thankfully. But yeah, so we're just looking for, through the next couple of years, who's going to take over the pastorate of the church, and then see where God leads and guides and directs us from there. So so it's that'd be huge prayer.
Alrighty. So we are nearing the end of our time. Thank you, everyone, for your words of encouragement. Ronnie says thank you for sharing your story on Facebook. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Your encouraging words I meant a lot to me. I hope it meant a lot to you, Mandy, Jason.
Yeah.
So glad you joined. Thank you for those of you who are partners in prayer, partners financially. Someone named Jan Post, is that a relation?
Yeah, that's my mom, and most of the people on the thread are probably friends of my mom. So
that is awesome. So I want to thank you all for joining. And again, your words mean a lot. If you are watching this when the live is done, it is not too late to put your questions. If you put the questions there, I monitor everything. So I will pass on your question onto the post to get an answer on your behalf. So thank you, everyone, for joining today. Next week, we got a very special edition of WorldVenture in Review. We're featuring a Polish teenager who's going to share their testimony from Bruce and Linda Thomas's church plant over in Poland. So you don't want to miss that. And we've got a lot of great stuff planned in the future, including an online small group next year. So check out worldventure.com/events. So thank you, Jason and Mandy, for coming on with me. Stay on, don't disappear. And the rest of you, thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for your prayers. Have a great rest of the day or evening wherever in the world you're watching.